Oh my gosh, it's been forever since I heard your voice last. No, welcome back, everyone. I'm Quack. This is Lone Fungus. I am once again in coordinated fashion joined by Alice and 8-Bit, this time on the mic while I run. How are you, Allie? GG on Have a Nice Death.
Thank you.
But yeah, this is Lone Fungus True Ending, where I'm going to save the world and repopulate it with fungal biodiversity. But before I do that, I do need the results of my skin bid war. So which version of Green Cap are we going to be saving the world with today?
Well, it actually turned out to be a deadlock tie.
Ooh.
And you know what that means? That means you, Quacksilver, get to choose between Haiku Cap and Music Cap.
Oh, that's such a painful choice. Okay, so I'm gonna go with Haiku Cap. I tend to run on Music Cap, which is great. It's the purple with headphones. How can you not love that? But Haiku the Robot is the Frame Fatale's Game of the Month for this and next month. So in order to honor that, we're gonna be running with Haiku Cap. And we're going to show the Green Cap's other only friend in the world, Haiku the Robot, around Capistool halls. But that said, let's get into it. I'm going to start this run in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright. And the first thing I'm going to do as soon as the run starts is I'm going to actually say, no thank you, I do not want to speedrun today. No, we save and quit right at the beginning because your save point is already locked to a shrine that is like 4 or 5 rooms in front of where you have to move. So we save quit right at the beginning to accelerate ourselves further into Deep Grotto. That's one of only a small handful of save quits we'll be doing in this run, because while quit outs do save progress, most major pickups actually hard save Green Cap to the room he's in, but not the sword. So this is our second save and quit, and now I have a sword. Talk a little bit about this run in general. This is True Ending. In order to get the true ending in the game, we need to ascend to the surface of the world after having already collected all 10 different spells. So there are 10 major spells. There's kind of an 11th, but it's a little bit of a half spell, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Each of the spells in this game is guarded by a boss. So there's going to be a fair bit of combat. This is also a Metroidvania that has one of the highest numbers of buttons in any Metroidvania I've played, and I play a fair number of indie Metroidvanias. But so there is going to be quite a lot of very excessive movement. We'll leave that as a spoiler for later. But I'm going to pick up here the third major ability of my basic kit, just doing a little damage boost there to skip a cycle. This is the parry. In this game, Green Cap can't up slash. He capped too big for he gosh darn sword. So one of the ways you deal with things above you is by parrying projectiles at them. But it's also worth noting that because the parry just gives me iframes, I can simply walk through enemies by parrying them. Yeah, with that, we're going to be moving towards our first boss here. You see below me here these red thorns. Red thorns are hazard respawns that don't actually damage Green Cap, which is very nice for some of the harder platforming tricks we're going to be doing later. This is the first boss, Warrior Statue. He's a tutorial for how to deal with giant flying things.
Yeah, so
get on top of the giant flying things.
We just try to get up here and just pogo the entire time. Sometimes you get some rude patterns, but we're going to want to actually be pogoing a lot and try to stay in the center of their body because that's where whatever their drop is going to be. And so this actually gives us the Mush Mover Infusion, which will make these little green mushroom platforms appear that we can pogo and continue moving forward. We can't really do much without it.
Yeah, there are several types of mush movers that we're going to encounter across this run. The basic green ones that you can just pogo to get a little lift, as well as these arrow kick ones that move a little bit further and faster. and several other varieties we'll see later. But here I'm going to pick up a Brain Node. Brain Nodes interface with this game's equip system. I'll be picking up 1, maybe 2 relics over the course of this run, and Brain Nodes are sort of like your equip slots. That Brain Node is actually not optimally necessary because we start out the game with 6 default brain points, and we don't need any extra unless the baby Siberia incentive is met. Unless we're taking a friend with us into the final boss. So that's just a safety, you know. I'm not trying to egg chat on or anything, but
I mean, if they don't fulfill the incentive, then like that was just time loss.
yeah,
We can't have
I was
that.
just playing poorly.
And if you want to help Quacksilver donate Barry, donate in chat. And put your incentive towards getting Barry on screen.
Trust me, Barry is shaped like a friend, even in a game where everyone is either a giant enemy robot or shaped like a friend. You don't want to miss him. But with that, we're gonna head towards our second boss. We're introducing water. Green Cap can only breathe for about 4 seconds underwater, but I'm gonna try and avoid it here. And this next boss I'm gonna focus because there's a 1 cycle I'm going to try and go for here.
This is pretty much the same kind of fight as last time, ideally. But there are more
Little bit too far to the
spikes.
left.
Yeah, they shoot some projectiles at you. Luckily, it's not too bad from here. Also, even a death to a boss really isn't that bad, as the settings we're on do let us, if we die, respawn at the start of the room with full health. So ideally, we
And
won't
now
need to
we have-
showcase that at all.
Hopefully, that'd be great. Now we have already just an incredibly busted piece of movement. This is our little skip finding engine. It's called Conjure Much Mover, and it's the half spell I was talking about earlier, because even though it is a spell and can be silenced like spells, which we'll talk about later, it doesn't take any mana, which is the bar below my health in the top left corner there, and it's just sort of a little bit weird in how it behaves. But critically, it spawns a Much Mover that we can use to pogo basically wherever we'd like. And that's not even, like, that in and of itself is useful for exploits, but we're going to exploit it further, both horizontally and vertically. You can see here that horizontal exploit. It's a tech called mush boosting, where by turning around, spawning it, and then jumping forwards again, I can get a little momentum boost in the forwards direction. So before I have any better movement, of which I will be getting several, this is our horizontal. You can also do it vertically by just jumping and spawning one in quick succession, which is a little bit faster than actually spawning it and pogoing it. But with that for the second area, this is Color Caverns.
I love that almost everything has mush in the name.
Oh yeah,
I'm crying over here.
there is a lot of fungus puns, there isn't much room in the game to hold all of the jokes.
Dev is quite a fun guy.
Yeah, shout out Sebastian. But yeah, so that's technically a skip, but the game gives you a skip tool and is like, hey, what about this gap that's just a little bit too high to jump? So this is Queen Evil Eye, my least favorite boss.
Quite a tricky boss, actually, or can be. We just gotta make sure that we're staying in the right spot. There is a point when some ads can get spawned. If we can get enough damage in, I think we can make them all spawn in one phase instead of 2 different times.
Okay, but so the goal with this boss, as with all of the other flying bosses, is to get on top of it. But she's got these attacks where she's at the bottom of the screen. I'm just gonna damage tank a bit through this. Maybe? She also flies up towards the top of the screen a little bit more, and there are spikes, but this was an incredibly good pattern. After the start there, which was a little slow, that was one of the best behaved QEs I've had in, like, weeks. Nice little marathon blessing there.
Yep, and this gives us a forward dash, which is distinctly not a jump.
Yeah, but you do get this little boost of verticality as well on your forward dash, which is useful for, like, playing with momentum in this game. You're going to see a lot of momentum stuff in this game. And it's only going to grow exponentially from here. But this is my favorite area in terms of overworld soundtrack, Mechanical Fort. But unfortunately, we're not here for long because I just need to grab one spell and then we're going to leave it. This is Master Block Monster. In theory, this fight is choreographed.
It's very cool to see when you actually get a good pattern and everything here.
Well, in that case, can I step in for a quick request because I'm just loving the puns here. Yeah. I would love to see a fungal pun donation train. I am a sucker for puns. All right, I've already had 2 spit takes. Thanks, Quack and Allison. But I would love to read some fungal puns. And of course, a $5 donation from Mom6226 who says, "Good luck, gamers." So thank you for that, Mom.
Amazing.
Let's bring me your puns. I challenge you, chat.
Yeah, make me hurt, please. I think of myself as pretty pun resilient, but I know there are some pun lords in the Lone Fungus community and the Metroidvania speedrunning scene in general. So do your worst. I beg. But with that, we got our first spell. I'm actually going to equip it in a little bit. I also picked up the one relic that is actually a part of this run, even optimally. Sorry, Barry. But that is Mind Slash, which is going to greatly increase the amount of mana I get back when hitting enemies. But I'm going to equip this spell here, and we're going for a trick. This is a giant enemy screw. I have a bouncy ball, and its weak point, while small, can be hit by this bouncy ball spell. This is supposed to be a choreographed fight, where you're supposed to do 10 damage per sword swing, and he's got all of these long tantrum phases. Oh, come on, get in there. There we go. But by using bouncy ball, you can completely skip that fight. That was a pretty well-behaved Screw King. I'm not going to be too mad about that.
Yeah, bouncy ball is actually a really cool spell overall. It does damage based off of how fast it's going, and it also just is useful for a ton of different skips.
Yeah, we'll be seeing a lot more bouncy ball, both in a little bit and later. I'm going to make sure I bench here. And fun fact about this game, so I play on controller, and this is the only game that I switch between gameplay styles. I use D-pad in the early game to get good mush boosts with, but then as soon as I have both of my dashes, I'm now playing using analog controls, which is just, this game has some stuff. So anyway, let me talk about infinite height in this game. So there were 2 different pieces of vertical tech there. One is the fact that bouncy ball refreshes my dash. So I can up dash, pogo a bouncy ball, and then up dash again. Please get your up dash jokes out in the chat now. I will be saying it for the rest of the run. But secondly, by switching spells as I pogo off of a mush mover, it resets the cooldown of the mush mover a little bit earlier than intended, so we can actually infinitely chain height with mush movers using the trick called Spell Cancel Pogo. It's a little bit slow, but there is one other place that I'm going to go for it. I also picked up the water breathing so that Green Cap can, breathe underwater now. And we're doing that to get the actual most broken movement ability in the game. Unfortunately, we do have to make it through some ice physics in order to get to it.
Yes, this is an area that has ice physics, some little goblins, has some penguins. Just this area has pretty much everything you might want. Oh, some spikes too. Lots of spikes.
Would it happen to have a $100 donation?
Please say more.
We have a $100 donation from Carrarium, who donates and says, "Everyone deserves a friend. Barry is no different. Let's help him see a new world." I agree. The cutest, dopiest little apple. I would love to see Barry see a new world. How about you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So yeah, now we start zooming. This is ground bounce. Ignore the name ground bounce. I'm mostly going to be using it on walls and on things that are not the ground. However, it also gets Green Cap absurd speed when bouncing along the ground, especially if you dash before bouncing. But you can also use it for height out of walls. The movement in this game gets very silly, very fast. But we're actually going to take our ground bounce and go back to Color Caverns for a little bit. We got to collect a few more spells, some other upgrades. But so blink and you'll miss this horizontal movement.
Yeah, we are schmooping. One thing that you may have seen is there was a small detour to grab a little bit of a sword upgrade, which we're going to use a few times. Maybe just once? I'm not sure how many times you go for it. But we are now fighting another boss. This is the Big Germ. Very large, spiky meatball.
There. Yep. And that's our second spell, Bouncy Spore. Bouncy Spore, we're going to be seeing a lot more of later, but for right now, it's just an inferior bouncy ball, so we won't be worrying about it too much. I'm going to pick up this key, and now that we have basically like my full movement set with 2 dashes, bounce, and a spell to also help me get around, we actually finally have a little bit of a breather in the grabbing of equipment, so if we've got any donations or messages, now is a great time for them.
I have a donation with a message, $25 from ChucklesW73, who says, "Thank you, Quacksilver, for showing off a truly adorable game." We also have $25 from Field94 and $25 from Quiet Brook. No comments, but that's okay. Thank you so much for your generous donations. Again, remember, when you hit that exclamation mark donate in chat, and make sure you're putting your donations towards the incentive you want, and we are still trying to babysit Barry, the cutest little floating apple in the world, so you can see a new world. So make sure you're putting that donation towards what you want.
Okay. Thank you so much for all of those donations. I picked up a parry emblem, which is just a small upgrade for my parry. So it's going to deal 45 damage instead of 30 on parry projectiles. Just a nice little buff. It was on the fastest path anyway, so it was on our way. But this is Red Crawler Queen.
Yeah, this is a fight it's really not too bad. You just need to make sure you have enough distance away from the queen. And they mostly just walk back and forth.
Yeah, there's actually a very rude second phase to that fight, but Bouncy Ball is good enough that we don't really have to see it. So that gives us a teleporting wand. I mentioned earlier that bosses, like most major pickups, hard save you, so we can't like quit out of bosses. However, we can teleport out of them now.
Yeah, it's a great piece of fast travel that we're going to be using pretty much through after every boss fight and everything we do for the rest of the run. So now we're making our way back through Mechanical Fort over to
Acid Dungeon. And Acid Dungeon, we're going to do a little bit of some wonky routing. Basically, we haven't talked much about the difficulty system in this game. So this game has 3 different base difficulties and then one like super hard challenge difficulty that I pretend doesn't exist sometimes because it scares me. But the basic 3 difficulties are Explorer, Normal, and Hardcore. And one of the cool things about this game is they actually change the way deaths behave between the difficulties. So on Explorer, deaths behave like they do in this little indie game you may not have heard of called Celeste, where when you die, you just respawn at the start of the room. And that's what I'm running on, because it's marathon safe, it's a good feeling, especially if some of the bosses in the game give you trouble. There's also Normal, which is a bit of a halfway point, and then Hardcore mode, where in addition to some other changes to make the game harder, deaths behave like they do in this little indie game you may not have heard of called Hollow Knight, where when you die, you respawn at your last shrine. Normal is the middle ground because you get 2 mulligans, essentially, and then you die and reset back to your shrine.
You also have full customization. If you want to just do whatever you want.
There are also custom difficulty options, which is cool. And the reason I bring this up is because this is the first place in the run that you often hear me talk about taking a safety death, but it looks like we snuck through everything fine, so never mind. Yep, ground bounce up straight vertical walls. See, it's fun. We're having fun. Ground bounce is a perfectly balanced ability.
That's the first silence room we've actually seen, where it actually shuts down a lot of your different spells and abilities. And now we're on Rogue Armadillo, who is quite a tricky little boss.
But also a fan favorite, generally.
I mean, who could be upset seeing a cute little armadillo? Even if they are throwing knives at us.
Nice. So there, you see the value in parry and the parry boost. After you parry a projectile, you can strike it with your sword in order to redirect it. So a lot of what I'm doing there is parrying and then instantly side slashing in order to knock the projectiles back into Rogue Armadillo. But now we just have a very long climbing section, aided by not only our bounce, but the spin jump ability that the Rogue Armadillo gave us. Spin just lets Green Cap go spinny. We won't be seeing it a whole lot in this climb, but it is both a movement and combat button. Now we have all of our buttons, but this next leg is basically just a ton of climbing. So if we have any more donations or messages from our hosts, now would be a great time.
Sure thing. We have a $10 donation from Nix, who says, "Good luck, Shroom and Quack." Thank you for that $10 donation. And a quick reminder, all of these wonderful donations go towards Malala Fund, which is a fantastic cause for helping women out. So thank you so much for everyone being so generous with your donations. But speaking of donations, again, we are running out of time. I'd say about getting close to the halfway point to when we have to determine if we're going to be babysitting Barry or not. So make sure when you put your donation towards that incentive, and we could potentially see the cutest little apple in the universe, see a new world. So make sure you are getting towards that.
Yeah, we are making good progress. I do need to know, it's not quite the end of the run when I need to know if we're babysitting Barry. It is a little ways before that when we're going to head into an area called Mossy Ruins here in just a second, and then on our second visit to that, I will need to know if we are babysitting Barry or not. But yeah, you can... Sorry, go ahead.
I did see a question in chat earlier asking about the bosses specifically. Are all of them red or have red in them, just out of curiosity?
Oh boy, asking aesthetic questions about a speed game I play. Can I answer this? Maybe. You should play the game for yourself to...
There you go.
Alright, this is a bit of a tough skip, so 1 second. We said that Bouncy Ball refreshes your dash. There's no limit on the number of times I can do that, except for the mana I have, but for some reason, Bouncy Ball is a 5-cast spell, in a game where most spells are 3-cast spells. So, cool. I'm glad we got that first.
Yeah, it's quite a tricky one. I literally spent like over an hour trying to do it like the first time ever. It takes quite a while to learn, but Quack is very experienced with this game.
Right, but we're not out of the woods yet. It's time for one of the hardest bosses in the run. This is Great Electro Hive. And now we can show off Spin Spore, our next damage upgrade.
Yeah, so ideally we're going to be just melting bosses with this for a while. It's the fastest thing we have at the moment, and I think it'll get upgraded to be even more powerful later. But yeah, this boss fight just has adds and projectiles and everything everywhere. It's quite a tricky one.
Yeah, she is really projectile happy today. Like you can see in the top left below my mana, if those parry indicators are grayed out, then I don't have parries, and it's rare that all of my parries get wasted so early like that. Alright, that was a relatively clean fight. I'm happy with that. With that, we have the Great Spin Slash, which is like the Spin Slash, but everyone's just, like, really excited whenever it walks in the room. That one hurt me to say, I'm so sorry. But no, we will be taking a shrine here and then actually leaving, because the thing about Great Spin Slash is that Great Spin Slash coupled with Spore lets us do some absurd damage to bosses and enemies generally. So we're actually going to go back into Frozen Depths here and fight the boss in this area. more ice physics. Ice physics is definitely the most common cause of safety deaths in the run. A deathless walk to Ice Lord is a major accomplishment that we may not necessarily have. I'm gonna go for it. 2 HP is enough.
How much longer do you think we got until berry time?
We got a couple bosses. Okay, that's a major part of it. Dang, not quite. Alright, punished just a little bit. It's okay, we'll respawn at the start of the room here. Yeah, that Fungus is a little hard to get.
Yeah, this whole section is just... It's one of the, like... You get it right after you get, the really fast, ground bounce movement, and so it's just, there's spikes everywhere. It's, really hard to, navigate through everything with just how much going on.
Now let's show off Great Spin Slash. This boss has some of the most HP of any boss in the game. And...
yes, the Ice Elemental Lord, or as the community likes to call it, Jerry. Yes. Yeah, and you're gonna see right here, using the combination of Great Spin Slash plus the Spore, we just deal so much damage so quick.
Yeah, Great Spin Spore turns you into the giant spore projectile. These deals twice as much as Spin Spore, which was already a huge amount of damage. So there is actually one damage upgrade that we still can get in this run, but it is slightly more context specific.
Spikes and goblins everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, here I know that because there's another boss door, so boss doors heal you on breaking them, so I can play a little bit fast and loose, but not quite that fast and loose, so I'm just going to die at the start of the room here. No harm, no foul, just a second or two.
Okay, this is the Gold Mines. We're mostly in here just to fight one boss, who we are currently ascending towards.
Yep. Alright, this is the big Mine Demon. Another case of Great Spin Slash, putting in work.
Yeah, it's just watching the damage just increase to this level is just very satisfying. And yeah, there is one other damage source that we have. We just don't use it very often, as it's quite tricky to have everything work out perfectly for it, but I think we're going to be using it for an upcoming boss.
Yeah, so I swapped over there while the boss was dying to Vibrant Crystal. Vibrant Crystal is actually the most single damage you can do in the game. It shoots out 8 projectiles that deal 39 damage each if you can hit all of them. It is just a truly comical amount of damage. Might be 9 projectiles, honestly. But in order to get to this next boss that we're going to use it on, we're actually going to do a skip first here. So the game wants you to have an ability called the Acid Sandals that lets you bounce off of the surface of the acid. But actually, ground bounce is just so busted that we can go for a nice little swim here. Now the Sandals skip. With that, we're going to get into the only boss with a full name. This is Sheldon. And I'm going to try and do a Vibrant Crystal setup here. Alright, that was good.
Oh yeah, there we go. Half the health and just one hit.
So yeah. So that's very finicky because the ceiling is too low for you to double jump into, or jump and updash into the Great Spin. So you have to hold a charge while also maneuvering around both the ceiling and the boss's projectiles. There will be more opportunities to show off just how much damage that spell can do. But also we're going to take advantage of ground bounce here. This expects you to have, this little puzzle expects you to have the wall bounce ability, which is a different ability. Don't worry about it. But with that, we're into undergrounds, and I'm actually doing underground somewhat backwards. You're supposed to get a spell at the end of this area called Berserk that increases the damage of your sword. And a sword with enough damage can break these boulders that you saw me break on my way in, but it just so happens that Great Spin Slash increases your sword's damage enough to also let you do that. So we just skipped about half of the area.
Yeah, that's what the really important skip into Mossy the first time is. That's why getting that Great Spin Slash so early was so important.
To celebrate, would you like some tons of great fungus?
Oh, please. Please let me have them.
All right. Okay. Chat, you have not disappointed. We have $10 from Upper Casserole who says, did someone say mushroom puns? I think they are in spore taste. Best of luck to the champion of games dubbed Quack. Thank you very much for the awesome speedruns. We also have a $5 donation from Tana, and Tana says, Quacksilver has me hallucinating with how fast these Gilson are going. I shan't trow, which is which, paying for my seat on this hype train. Good luck on the run. Thank you so much.
Never punished. Let's go.
And we have some love for Barry. A quick $100 donation from Echo Parallax, and a $25 donation from Sokubun, who says, shoutouts to our best and only friend, Barry, who probably greets everyone with, what's up, Dash? Thank you, everybody, for those awesome donations.
All right, so yeah, here you can see exactly how silly the Vibrant Crystal Great Spin is. This is another late game boss that we just killed with 3 of them. And how are we doing on that berry incentive?
We still have a bit to go, so chat, this is the final push. Exclamation mark donate.
This really is the final push. I'm gonna save here. So after I beat this next boss, I'll come back for him. He's in this next room, but I'll come back for him. You got about 1 boss and 1 skip here. So this is another silence room that expects you to have an ability that lets you magnetize to that railing, but we are just gonna use ground bounce. Barry's in this room to my left, and you're gonna make him sad. Chat, you're gonna make Barry sad.
Aww. Very sad. It's a sad apple. Turns a golden delicious
a bit of
into
time.
Granny Smith.
So we're gonna get a heal here. We're gonna make it our way to the next boss, who is the Electric Elemental Lord. This one is Larry. No. Is it there?
Yeah, so the Elemental Lords have rhyming names that all rhyme with Barry as well. Like it's Larry, Jerry, and Gary. And I can never tell them apart, unfortunately. I am not well, come on, don't run that way.
Oh no, this one is Larry. Electric Larry, that makes more sense. Too many Elemental Lords, too many different names to keep track of.
They have the cutest expressions on their face. I can't stop looking.
Even the projectiles have faces.
I love this.
Oh, don't do it. Let's go. All right, I can stall for the berry a little bit longer. We've got a couple other bosses. We're in the sort of the cleanup part of the run, where you just have to quick kill a ton of remaining bosses. So chat, you got about 2 minutes left. Once I deal with all of the remaining bosses, I need to know if Barry's coming with me to the end game.
We'd all love to see Barry come see a new world with us, chat. Mark donate. Make Barry super happy that he's coming with Quacksilver for the very end.
Yeah, this is just cleanup. We're just gonna be running around, just doing a gauntlet of different bosses in different places because we have all the movement to get to all of them. We have a bunch of damage just to take them out very quickly. So
yeah. So hi, Big Butterfly. Bye, Big Butterfly.
And what's so special about bringing Barry with you to the boss? Like, what does Barry or babysitting Barry mean officially?
So Barry is a minion equipped that summons a little friend to follow you around that shoots projectiles a little bit. So it is a little bit mechanically, if that's your speed, if the power of friendship alone is not enough for you. It is a little bit of a challenge for the final boss because it means giving up Mind Slash and also needing to try and set up our little minion friend to get some damage in on the final boss, who is a giant health pool. And aesthetically, it means having a little dopey floating apple with a smiley face see the end of the game, which is pivotally important to me specifically.
Alright, so yes, this one is Gary. This is the Fire Elemental Lord. This will be the last of the Elemental Lords. We're fighting all these because, again, we need to get all of the different spells so that we can actually get the true ending.
All right, I got one more spell to get. How we doing, guy? Any donations or messages?
Just remember, exclamation mark, donate in chat. We do have some $25 donations from Bobo Luck, from Anonymous, 25 from Elegant Feud. Thank you so much for your charitable donations. But we still need a bit more to babysit Barry, and we are down to the wire, chat. So make sure when you put those donations in, put them towards the specific babysit Barry incentive.
We're now on the probably best named boss in this game, Corrupted Falafel, who should be going down pretty quickly. They're a pretty reasonable boss that spends a lot of time behind, so we can really get that damage in where we need it.
All right, I need to call it. Are we taking Barry or are we going for the optimal fight?
CC did give $25. It said for Bay Apple Barry Lesson 3. Unfortunately, Barry is sad that he doesn't get to be babysat. However, he is so happy to get so many donations for Malala Fund, such a great cause. So thank you so much, chat.
Your donations shall not be in vain. We shall carry the spirit of our dopey apple friend with us. But since we are not going to be babysitting him, let's take this opportunity to get this final boss really fast, shall we? So here is the climb to the final boss. Once again, you're going to see me taking advantage of that spell cancel pogo tech to climb up infinitely, to skip an ability that I should have gotten here called the spin bounce. There's actually an alternate path to the surface that you're supposed to go up when you do the true ending. You're supposed to talk to a character called the Hyperbolic Host, and he opens up a path, but actually the game only checks that you've got all of the spells and that it doesn't care which path you go down. So we actually went up the bad ending path, but are still going to get the true ending at the end of the run here. But this is Watcher. Watcher is currently doing the attack you never want to see Watcher do.
Yeah, this fight is just a lot of projectiles and stuff. It gets a lot more exciting for the next phase. Spoilers, there is a phase 2 on the true ending final boss. Shocking. But yeah, we got a lot of damage there. And now we're going to use this time to actually just get a bunch of mana for the next phase. Get ready for...
So this is Darkcap. Darkcap's going to fight us with the spells that we've learned, as well as some Watcher attacks. And time is coming up as soon as this health bar is depleted. And then after time, there's an unskippable final cutscene that does have a slight photosensitivity warning. It lasts about 30 seconds, maybe a hair longer, but just so you have been warned. But yeah, our goal is we want as many of these projectile attacks because not only does Darkcaps let us parry projectiles, but also stays in one spot after them, so we can more effectively get Great Spin Spores in on the boss. Fine.
GG.
That was a good final fight.
GG.
Yes, flashing lights warning not over. Green cap is going to explode into rainbows to represent the fungal biodiversity. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone who donated in this. If you want to hang out with Barry, I'm afraid this just means you're going to have to play the game for yourself. Lone Fungus is one of my favorite classes of video games, a small indie Metroidvania. Absolutely love them. This game is a phenomenal casual game that sort of eggs you on to find your own skips. I have watched a lot of people play this game and seen no two people take remotely the same casual path through it after the world sort of starts to open up. And it's also a phenomenal speed game. I highly recommend, in addition to True Ending, there are some runs that are as short as like 15 minutes or less, where you just basically Zerg rush the final boss with no equipment, which is a totally different vibe. But thank you so much, everyone from the Lone Fungus community, as well as Ali for being on the mic, and GDQ for having me.
Thanks for having me as well.
Yes, thank you so much to both Quacksilver and Allison. Get some GGs out and chat again for an amazing Lone Fungus run. Such a cute, adorable game. With that, I do want to remind everybody that coming up next is our Overcooked 2 70 Stars randomizer run, where we have bid wars going on. Pretty much you get to choose what chefs both Elijah and Paticus Muck are going to be using. There's a couple different options available everywhere from platypus to pirate to aliens to wolves to octopi to ghost turtles, even a purple alien. So make sure, if you want to choose which chef that our runners are going to be using, make sure you do so. But all right, friends, that all said, my host percent run is done for the day. And as I leave you in the capable hands of Sweet Peeves, I have one thing to say. Have fun storming the hydration break!
Hello and welcome back to Flame Fatales 2023, Raising Money for Malala Fund. My name is Sweet Peebs and I will be your host for the next couple of runs. Now, but before we get over there, our first run is going to be Overcooked 2 with Eliza and Paticus Mock. Before we get over there, I would just like to let you know that preemptively, we are going to try to start a $5 donation train because I would like to hear the ingredients you have in your fridge and the runners as well. We'd all like to tell you what you should cook for dinner. So get those $5 donations in. Before we kick it on over, let me read a couple of donations. We have a $10 donation from Daz, no comment. We also have a $25 donation from Anonymous, also no comment. Thank you so much for those generous donations. Before we continue on, let me tell you a little bit about why we are here today. We are raising money for Malala Fund. Malala Fund is working for a world where every girl can learn and lead. They believe local educators and activists are best suited to address the problems girls face in their communities. Malala Fund invests in their work and collective power to create change, hold leaders accountable, and give girls the tools they need to advocate for themselves. From supporting STEM education for young women in Pakistan to creating safe learning spaces for girls in northern Nigeria, your gift today is an investment in Malala Fund programs that directly benefit girls. We have another $25 donation from Elzimoto, no comment. Thank you so much for all your generous donations. And without further ado, we will open up the dining room because it is now time for Overcooked 2 with Eliza and Paticus Mock.